On to Chico's second tape. It's now March 9th, 1975. We can deduce Paz was allowed to sleep next to Chico in her cage overnight.
Don't touch me, you son of a bitch!
Guards come for her, punching her when she mouths off. Then, if we listen close, we hear her get punched again when she tries to run away. She's taken to the boiler room, which is like Skullface's black site within a black site. None of the Marines are allowed down there, only XOF.
All quiet? What was that crew up to going back and forth between admin and the old prison area all the time?
Yeah, one of the guys on gate duty was saying the same thing. They kept taking a prisoner with them.
And then they'd go down into the boiler room.
The area was off limits while they did their questioning, or interrogation.
My buddy said he heard screams coming out. And music.
Music? That's some creepy shit.
This is a form of operational security. And maybe something more, which we'll get to at the end. 53 seconds in, we cut. What's cool is that just from sound alone, we can tell that Chico is in the exact same place, except now it's around dawn. According to Wired.com, during the dawn chorus, birds are often louder, livelier, and their songs are more frequent. It's mostly made up of male birds attempting to attract mates and warn other males to stay away from their territories, end quote. This is extremely relevant for the vocal cord parasites. Again, something we'll get to near the end. We cut again at 103. Why such a short excerpt? No way to be sure. But next we hear the cage gate open and Paz return. She's punched for a third time. Then a fourth. Then a fifth. Then she's thrown to the ground. The brutality recalls a line from 1984. To envision the future, picture a boot smashing in a human face for all time. Paz is tough. She won't crack under pressure. She has conflicted loyalties both to Big Boss and to Cypher. But most importantly, she believes that Cypher is like God, an all-seeing, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent force. She has faith that she will be delivered from this injustice and pain, like biblical legends like Daniel or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Is it education, morals, faith? Just the imprint of a lifetime of stories? Face to face with oblivion, which is where you are, and you still think that help is coming.
You might have noticed a ton of monotheistic imagery and allusions throughout this video series. What's going on, I think, about their presence in MGSV is simple. These stories and ideas are
words to control the subconscious.
They are at the root of all three major world religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, and therefore are at the root of modern society, in whatever variety you wish. All are very old, and so, in the world of MGS, very powerful, especially given that many people around the world have forgotten them, yet they still know them unconsciously. We cut again at 1:15 in tape 2. Now it's pouring rain. We cut again around 1:20. It seems like Chico is recording proof of the passage of time.
April the 4th, 1984. I think.
Or is it Skullface who is editing in that passage of time to make it more clear?
I want Big Boss to hear his little diary. Hopefully, he's still a good listener.
The specified 3 days, March 9th, 10th, and 11th, correspond to the differences in the environment around Chico over the same period. Its only purpose, you see, is getting us to forget that these tapes were only recorded by Chico. They were edited and arranged by Skullface, or by extension, one of Skullface's men. At 121, we hear Paz return yet again. Now, what's crucial is this fragment suggests, in tandem with one of the in-game conversations, that every time that this movement back and forth from the admin boiler room to the old prison happens, XOF do so as a group. They're very close.
She looks weak. We need her alive. Yes, sir.
Skullface even goes with them. It's like they're his army of the dead, a family as silent as the grave. But what's next is Skullface's earliest line in the game, I believe, apart from the secret agent recording.
She looks weak. We need her alive.
And then chillingly, one of XOF uses a voice very similar to Skullface and says,
Yes, sir.
This could mean that the interrogation has not yet even begun. Skullface seems to be softening Paz up for a while, to make confessing to him while they eventually do interrogate her feel like a sweet release, a possible end to her suffering, a way out. There are also some possibilities involving the parasites that may be extending her ability to withstand pain, just as Skullface must do to himself constantly to keep alive. Does she look weak from beatings, from lack of food, or from parasite therapy? Who knows, but the real point here is that Skullface will hijack her own will to survive. She's only alive in order to serve him.
You are allowed to live only in order to help me. But you don't want to, do you?
Next, Chico and Paz have what we can only assume to be their first real conversation.
Paz.
She's clearly been beaten or tortured within an inch of her life. We find out that on most days, she's not returned before nightfall.
You're back early today.
Early.
And the sun is still up.
See.
Now what's a nice touch is that the recorder's sensitivity sounds cranked up to catch Paz's quiet voice. Chico tries to cheer her up by pointing out that they stopped earlier than usual, but Paz is smart enough to recognize that the reason for this is probably bad. It's probably part of the torture, a torture that's not over yet. Taking her back with enough time to talk to Chico is clearly part of Skullface's evil design. And again, as we'll get to, this probably has something to do, if my theory is correct, with vocal cord parasites.
Come on, get up and start talking!
So the circumstances have filled Paz with suspicion towards Chico, and this is very important for the chain of retaliation that it will soon set off.
And the sun is still up.
See.
Yeah.
Chico,
Yes?
let us not do this, okay?
Because for the first time, Chico's entire purpose for coming here and risking everything gets undermined.
Huh?
I do not think I want to talk to you.
But I came here to...
Just quiet.
He gets his feelings hurt because he doesn't understand why Paz can't tell apart an enemy from a friend. Chico doesn't know that much, least of all when it comes to Cypher or Skullface, so he misinterprets Paz's reticence as a reticence towards him. He takes it personally, and it makes him kind of angry, because, of course, as we were told in the Phantom Pain,
emotions transmitted in children's brains affect the surrounding magnetic field more strongly. Cerebral nerves are covered with insulation called myelin sheaths to increase impulse speed. The reason for this leakage has to do with the fact that children's myelin sheaths are still developing.
Children's myelin sheaths are still developing, making them prone to surges of powerful emotions. And this is the end of tape 2.
I came here to...
Just quiet. Or I'll scream.
What the... I don't get it.
With the third tape, Chico's yet again given a torturous gift. He's been caged like an animal, powerless to effect change over the ceaseless, senseless beating of paws. And now, the man with the skull face-like voice comes for him, taking Chico directly inside the belly of the whale. This selection was taken from what was probably one long, unbroken recording. Skullface, or one of his cronies, edited it down so that only the most instructive segments remained. Like the Pied Piper, Skullface leads us all like rats. And that's a good time to bring up Winston Smith and Room 101 from 1984. So Winston Smith is the main character. He was born already in the clutches of Ingsoc, the party in power in the novel. Throughout the novel, Winston keeps returning to a long-repressed memory of the last time he saw his mother and sister alive. His sister was sick, and his mother was trying to save food for her, but Winston, already consumed at that point by the words, the language, and the morals of his wider society, sees only that he is being deprived of food. The boy version of Winston, or so the adult version remembers, steals the food right out of his family's hands, so to speak, scurrying off like a rat. When he returns, neither Winston's mother or sister are ever seen again. They abandon him like he abandoned them. But instead of coming to terms with the total powerlessness that the story signifies, Winston internalizes the guilt. He therefore comes to develop a psychological blind spot on the subject to keep himself safe. This self-imposed blindness manifests a lifelong fear of what Winston feels he truly deserves and is, to be treated like a rat. So, near the end of the novel, Winston, radicalized against the party by the party itself as a form of entrapment, as a method of freezing history in place, is subjected to a 3-stage so-called rehab. First comes torture, then comes instruction, and then comes the annihilation of his very soul, instantiated in the form of the infamous Room 101. Room 101 is where the subject of Ingsoc's rehab is confronted with their very worst fear. The thought police spend years and even decades cultivating this fear, and then use it there to ensure a mind cleansing that is complete and utterly irresistible. For Winston, it is a cage full of rats, with a special compartment that can open, exposing his face to their hungry jaws and tearing claws. The party are masters in psychological warfare and information control. They don't actually carry out the opening of the cage, you see? The deed does not matter, it is the thought that they're after. They simply realize for Winston this awful and heavily symbolic punishment to convince him he really is a rat, really is a terrible person who has no moral right to oppose them. They force him, you see, to give up his illusions of love for a young woman named Julia, a love that they themselves instigated in him. The party brought the two of them together in conspiracy only to cause them to come to willingly, quote-unquote, betray one another. The party uses grains of truth to fabricate wholesale lies. Anyway, all of this is directly relevant for what happens next. Chico gets taken to the boiler room. But notice something. The tapes seem to diverge between 3 and 4.
cameras!
You've got company.